Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Week 6 post-game show. Falcons vs. Vikings. The Falcons got that first win of the season. It was fun from start to finish. It was a thorough domination of what probably should have been an inferior opponent going into the season. But, going into Week 6, the Falcons were 0-5, so it would be hard to say that there were any inferior opponents for this team. But they made the Vikings look pretty silly. They just totally flabbergasted Kirk Cousins early. Cousins threw 3 picks in the first half. Vikings offense seemed to kind of get it together after halftime and kind of remember that, you can pass on this defense. You really can. And Justin Jefferson had a tremendous second half for the Vikings, but it wasn't enough. They were down too much. The Falcons defense hung on. And honestly, they played well from start to finish. I mean, obviously, this isn't a perfect scenario for the defense, giving up that long touchdown at the end of the game. You'd hope that, we could avoid things like that. But look, that's based on what we've had seen going into this week. It was an improvement. And now joining us, Adnan Ikic. Adnan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm very conflicted about that game.
Well, it was fun. So that was a nice change for me personally to have a fun Falcons game. I didn't feel like I had to try to distract myself with something else. 15 minutes in. So that was a nice change.
I can also see we're at 300 viewers fewer after a win than after a loss.
Yeah, the rage has expired. The folks the people. We understand. But it's nice to get a win to avoid going 0-16. We weren't anywhere close to that yet, but it's nice to take that potential nightmare scenario off the table.
Yeah, and just table the draft talk right now. We're not even gonna get into that right now. My thing is, if this is what the team looks like now, then that's just further indictment on Arthur Blank for not firing Dan Quinn in the offseason when he should have, when we were all calling for it, when nobody wanted him back except for the players. And now they go out here and put on the most complete performance of the season by far. Mm-hmm. And the most complete performance since maybe that Panthers game last year where they put up 40 against him in the second game against the Panthers. So it really is a case of where has this been, but it's also a case of, all right, we need to wait and see right now to see, because every single year it happens in the NFL where a coach gets fired mid-season and then the very next game the team comes out like gangbusters.
Right, yeah.
And they look incredible. So if the team goes back to being the way they were, more or less the first 5 weeks, then we can chalk that up to, all right, they were just hyped up on that adrenaline, playing for a new coach, new voice in the locker room. But if this is the norm going forward and the team looks this good, then there's going to have to be some very fair criticism on Arthur Blank for dragging his feet with the whole Dan Quinn situation.
Right, because at this point they'd have to be basically perfect. I mean, they could afford maybe 1 loss, maybe 2 losses to actually have a chance of making the playoffs out of the next 10. Which
probably
is,
2, because I'm sure 9-7 gets you into the playoffs, but we're not. Yeah. I'm not even discussing playoffs.
Talking about playoffs.
Yeah. Maybe if they run off 4 straight wins in their next 4, then
right. If you get back to 500, then we can have that conversation.
Yeah, then it's all right. Draft season is temporarily stopped. Mm-hmm. It's still draft season though.
Yeah, it's always draft season, but we put a temporary moratorium on the draft. The most egregious draft takes. We'll still have some draft takes, but ultimately, we need to keep it in context. Of course, the team is still 1-5.
Take Najee Harris with the top 5 pick.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Those egregious draft takes, but. I think people underrate, the impact of just feeling that kind of release. I mean, we all felt it. Obviously, the staff of the Falcoholic felt it. The fans, I'm sure, felt it. Just like a weight being lifted off your shoulders, just knowing that this team wasn't going to go anywhere with Dan Quinn and everything was darkness and terrible. And just having that weight taken off your shoulders and having something new, that can produce things like this. But is it sustainable? And that's the big question.
Yeah, because you look at it last year too, and sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
Remember after the bye week, they come out and play that amazing game against the Saints, which was by far the best game of the season. And then they come out the next week and play that fabulous game against the Panthers, and they end up rattling off those wins, getting back to winning 7 games. Now it's like it feels like that again, where there's some changes made. There's this great game right now, and I don't think that this team is as bad as the record indicated. Like, there's so much talent on this team for them to be 0-5, but it's so difficult to picture where this team is going to go from here. And I'm not even going to try to predict, like, oh yeah, they're going to be just this good moving forward, or they're going to go back to like what they were in the first 5 games. I'm sure it's going to be more of like a medium. It's not going to be like either of the two like spectrums, but it's just so difficult, just like how difficult it was last season, where the second half of the season was all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what to expect because this team has been so streaky, and you referenced it last year. In particular, they were good in the second half, and then they were terrible in the first half. And and unfortunately, it seems like lately their good streaks have been after they've been eliminated from contention. I guess mathematically they haven't been eliminated. Statistically, they basically have. I think there's like one example in history of a team with a record this poor making the playoffs. But when you add that extra playoff spot,
Chiefs. Yeah, I think it was very recent. The Chiefs with Alex Smith a few years ago, and they rattled off 10 straight wins. And if we can rattle off 10 straight more wins, and Raheem Morris can come back as the head coach.
Yeah, if you rattle off 10 straight, I mean, I'll have that conversation. But that is extremely unlikely to happen for many reasons. One being that the Falcons still play some tough teams going forward.
All right, let's just set logic aside for a second. How fun would that be, though?
That would be really funny.
How fun would that be to sweep the Saints and to sweep the Bucks and to just go into the playoffs on an 11-game win streak? It's not going to happen, but just imagine it for a second, where it's just like, I think it will be the most fun season in recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy. And that would be nice. That would be a nice distraction from everything else going on in the world, and the fact that the Falcons have just been downright terrible up until this game. So, and it's really sad because let's say that they didn't blow those 2 games, and they were 2-3 coming into this game, and then this would be the game that they get back to 500. And
but then Dan Quinn wouldn't have been fired.
Yeah, so I think it was worth it to lose those 2 at this
point. So I don't think like the team would have looked this good with Dan. I think this team would have like laid an egg completely in this game because I mean, you look at it, they played so well, and Kirk Cousins had some fantasy stats, and if you look at the box score, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins didn't have a good game at all. He was downright terrible in this game up until like it was complete garbage time. He had 3 picks in the first half. Didn't score any points until very late in the game when it was, I think, 23-0.
Yeah, it was.
And he was he was throwing it up to Justin Jefferson, who was making plays. Justin Jefferson looks really good, by the way. Very, very talented rookie wide receiver from LSU. I don't know what the Eagles were thinking passing up on him for Jalen Reagor, although the jury's still out on both of those guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, the defense, it was getting pressure. Like, Kirk Cousins was completely... He was rattled in that entire first half, and I remember they got I didn't see who it was who got that hit on his hand for that Oluwakin interception.
I think it was
the third one.
Twatty Mariner. I think so. Yeah.
Twatty Mariner, shout out. You got a false start later on the offensive line. Playing the Ben Garland role. I mean, AJ Terrell looked really good too. He had that great interception. Congratulations to him on getting his first pick of the season. Mm-hmm. They just set the tone in this one. Like right away, first play of the game, Deion Jones gets the interception, and I was very hard on him. I went on Arif Hassan's podcast with the Minnesota Vikings SB Nation.
Yeah.
And I was very hard on Deion Jones, who just looked completely uninterested last week. It didn't feel like he was playing up to his usual standards, and it didn't look like he was really giving it his all this season. But in this game, he looked so focused, and he was fantastic in this game. So I hope that that's the norm moving forward. Maybe it was something that Raheem Morris said to him before the game started. Remember, Raheem Morris had that talk with all of the leaders with the team. Deion Jones is definitely one of the leaders on defense. So, good for Deion Jones, good for the team. I'm sure this is a very, very this was a very excited locker room after the game. Yeah. Like, I didn't know, my brain just froze for a second, but this is what the locker room needed, because I'm sure it was miserable in there after these first 5 games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was miserable on Twitter. I can only imagine what it was like for the professionals having to actually go in and grind, in that situation. But it's always nice to get a win and avoid 0-16 and all that. To me, it's just like, is this something that is sustainable? Is this something that translates going forward? Or was this just a flash in the pan reaction to Quinn finally being let go? Like, is this team actually competitive, or, is it not? I mean, we've said this before, like, Dirk Cutter's offense is good at taking advantage of teams that are less talented than his team. So the Vikings were clearly undermanned versus this offense, and everything was working for him. When Dirk Cutter plays against defenses that aren't just completely overmatched by his talent, then his offense looks like looks like shit. So, we're not going to get to play bottom tier defenses every single week. So I do wonder, what happened. Like, the defense was really quite good in the first half, but they still gave up 20 plus points in the second half. So this is a unit that's still very suspect. But if they can get turnovers and do enough, combined with the offense also doing enough, then maybe they're fine. But is this a formula that can actually work, or is this just something that's going to get the team a few wins here and there, but ultimately they're still going to struggle?
I mean, I don't think this team is making the playoffs still. Like,
let's be honest. We're 1-5, folks. Everybody calm down. Yeah.
No, we're 1-5, and I mean, here's what the team's going to do. Like, I can see it now. This team is going to get our hopes up the next couple of weeks going into the bye, because the next few games you play the Detroit Lions, who actually look pretty good this week, but who overall on the season, Matt Patricia could easily be the next head coach who gets fired in the NFL. They blow double-digit leads for fun, just like the Falcons do. Then you get the Panthers on a Thursday night game, short week. Anything can happen in that one. The Panthers have looked really good. They just lost to the Bears, who look absolutely for real this season. They're 5-1. So shout out to Matt Nagy for the job he's doing with Nick Foles as his quarterback. And then you get the Broncos. So I can easily see this team getting our hopes up and being 4-5 going into the bye week, only to start laying an egg after that bye week. The only thing I ask, however, is for them to beat the Saints.
Yes.
In those 2 games, and then other than that, you can just do what you want.
Yeah, like, if we're gonna go down, we're taking the Saints with us. That's just a rule for us.
Yeah, we did it last year. Their loss to us put them in the wild card game instead of having home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and we saw how that worked out. So I'm completely fine. I've accepted another lost season. It's getting easier and easier to accept these lost seasons the more we get. It's the 3rd straight one, but I would very much like to take the Saints down with us.
Yeah, of course.
I'd be very excited if we somehow beat the Saints twice, and as a result, they lose the division and lose out on a playoff spot. That would be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think ultimately we're looking at like a 4-12, 5-11 squad on the whole. Like, them being 5-11 would be them basically going 500 the rest of the way, and I think that's about what we should expect from this team. We shouldn't expect any miracles or any super crazy turnarounds, but they should be competitive week in, week out. Like that, they shouldn't be as bad as they've looked. It's kind of really a testament to how bad Dan Quinn's coaching was that they were 0-5. Like they really shouldn't. Like, this really should be a team that's probably closer to 8-8, 9-7. But that just blew it in a lot of the biggest stages. Yeah.
And the better this team does, the worse it looks on Dan Quinn for any future job opportunities for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I guarantee you other NFL teams will start taking notice if the Falcons go from not making any like big trades, any major personnel moves, and all of a sudden they look like this in comparison to what they looked like the first few weeks. Because, like I said, don't get me wrong, the Vikings scored 23 points in this game.
Yep.
I think it was, doing the math, 16 of them were in absolute garbage time.
Yeah. They were, yeah.
Yeah, the Vikings pretty much scored 7 games in this game as far as I'm concerned. Or, 7 points in this game as far as I'm concerned, because that was complete garbage time. And, I mean, Julio and Matt Ryan just put on an absolute vintage performance. They're very capable of doing this in any given week. Mm-hmm. These kinds of performances, as they get older, will be fewer and farther between. But, it's just a warning that they can just blow up at any point, at any time, because that's just how talented they are. That's just who they are. Julio Jones, 2 touchdowns in this game, had 137 yards on 10 targets, 13.7 yards per target's a really good number. Calvin Ridley got the other touchdown. Hayden Hurst got one. And I mean, I got to give it to Dirk Cutter for as much flack as we give him. It's only fair to give him credit for the good performances as well, even if it is against a struggling defense. 40 points put up by the offense. This is his second best called game of the season, other than that maybe that Cowboys game. And there's an argument to be made for either one of those. So a gold star for Dirk Cutter this week.
Yeah. I mean, it and that's what I'm saying. Like, Dirk Cutter can look like a genius against teams that he can overmatch. And clearly the Falcons overmatched the Vikings on defense this week, and they should overmatch a lot of teams. But like against the Seahawks, the Cowboys, and now the Vikings, all teams that have bottom third of the league defenses, this offense has looked very good. Against anything more than that, like average defenses, better than average defense, Chicago, the Panthers, Green Bay, like the offense looks, it's out of sync. Like, I don't know what's going on. We just can't move the ball. Like it. So I'm hesitant to give Cutter too much credit, but we did see a few things that were nice. That there were some more interesting play calls. There were also a lot of basically the same dumb mistakes that we're used to seeing. But
he probably watched the show last Wednesday.
I hope so, right? Get in here, Dirk. Yeah, Dirk would be really mad if he watched the show, I'm sure. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, the run game wasn't good, but the passing game was electric finally. And then we saw the rush defense look phenomenal. I mean, the Falcons' run defense has been one of the bright spots basically in every single game, and they were consistently good there. But then after basically shutting out the Vikings in the first half, you allow Cousins to go throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 quarters. That's still not good. Even if it is garbage time, and it is partly that, it's still a lot of yards and points to give up. So if you're not up by 20 plus points, do you lose this game? What do you think, Anna?
I think it had to do with the circumstances. I do think it's human nature to kind of take the foot off the gas pedal when you're up by so many points in the second half. I just don't like it when that's completely designed by the coaching staff, the way Dan Quinn always did it. And it's, all right, we're up by a couple possessions in the second half. Let's run prevent every single time. And it's our strategy to give up all of these yards and all of these points. Because, I mean, like I said, you still got to give it to Justin Jefferson. It's not like they just gave away everything. The Vikings still went out and took it in the second half with a couple of those touchdowns, even though Kendall Sheffield really, he didn't look his best. At a few of those moments in the second half.
He got roasted. Yeah, he did.
But I mean, still, I don't think that Kirk Cousins puts up those numbers if this game is a bit closer.
Yeah, Yeah, that's probably true. It just seemed like the Vikings all of a sudden figured out that they could just go deep on the Falcons, like basically every other team has done, and it was working. And I don't know why they waited that long to try that, but it did eventually work. So I guess that's good that they waited long enough so that the game was no longer in contention. And the Falcons, recovered 2 onside kicks. So Bernie Parmalee, special teams coach of the year.
Oh, I mean, the bar wasn't really set very high for the new special teams coach. It's just go out there and don't make an utter fool of yourself and disgrace yourself on national television the way you did against the Dallas Cowboys. So it was nice. I do think there's something psychological to it after giving up that onside kick against the Cowboys. You're glad that you were in a position to recover one. And it was a low pressure situation because I'm sure that the players were out there and they had it in their minds about like onside kicks. So it feels really nice when you recover one and when you can just move forward and kind of start forgetting about that one against the Cowboys because that wasn't your last onside kick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we're at the point now where things are probably out of hand for the Falcons, but it's still nice to see them get a win. In terms of the NFC South, it's actually funny that the Falcons have actually outscored all the other NFC South teams. But they're 1-5, so it's sad. But yeah,
I'm telling you, when this team is 4-5 going into the bye, everyone's going to be
the hype train
completely, and the hype train will be rolling,
leaving the station.
Just for them to end up going 7-9 this season. Like that second half is not. This team isn't coming all the way back. This team will come back slightly, only to break your heart.
Yeah, they'll do just enough to screw up the draft pick. They're very good at that. They're extremely good at that.
They are the best at that. If you got a higher draft pick for screwing up the draft, we'd have the number 1 pick.
Oh yeah. They should do that, to encourage teams not to tank, right? They should be like, oh, well, you won that game in week 17, you actually get the better pick. Good for you. No, that won't happen. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that this team at least responded positively to the removal of Dan Quinn, which is interesting considering how much people stuck up for him and stuck their necks out to try to support him, which I think was always kind of overblown. I mean, I think basically this team is just full of classy players that are never going to, talk shit about their coach behind his back to the media. That's just not a locker room that's going to do that. But it was pretty clear to me that, there was a sense of relief they just looked like they had energy for the first time since week 1.
Look, the players can say whatever they want to the media. If they really didn't want Dan Quinn to be fired, they would have played better.
Yep.
Because it wasn't just a scheme thing. Like I was mentioning Deion Jones, he was looking especially last week, he looked completely uninterested. Mm-hmm. And, a few of these players, they did not play with a great deal of effort, the effort that they should have been playing with those first few weeks. And, it goes hand in hand with the scheme. If you're getting roasted and burned play after play, then of course you're going to go out there and it'll just be human nature to be like, all right, what the hell are we doing?
Right.
But, still it wasn't only the scheme. It has to do with the effort, and that's on the players. And I'm not ready to just completely give all the players just a pass and be like, all right, this was all on Dan Quinn and Dirk Cutter, because it's on everyone. When you go 0-5, it can't just be on one person.
Right, exactly.
It's a collective team effort.
It is. And that's part of the problem. Part of the problems we're going to have to sift through this offseason is, which players were phoning it in, which ones were really putting in the effort. And, at a certain point when you're 0-4, you understand that there's going to be a bit of phoning it in. But, this new regime, whoever they are, is going to have a lot of power to reshape the roster. So, I think players now realize that they can't just coast through and, be good to go next year. They have to show how valuable they are to the team on tape. Because the new coach and the new GM don't have any loyalty to these players. And even Arthur Blank has said guys like Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, he was not exactly effusive in his support for saying these guys are never going to leave Atlanta. So
And I love Julio and Matt, but that was a relief to hear
yeah.
because, when Arthur Blank makes that statement, it shows that he is going into this with the mentality of I'm not going to meddle with what the new regime wants to do. The last thing you want out of your owner is to go out there and to pull a Jerry Jones and to basically put all of the pressure on, all right, like it's going to be my way or the highway. And Arthur Blank has full authority and autonomy to do that. It's his football team. He's the one who paid for it. He's the one who signs the checks. But you're not going to win that way.
Right.
You're not going to win with your owner meddling and, deciding, all right, Julio Jones is our most marketable player, so he can't go anywhere. We're going to give him a new contract. We're going to give him all these millions. And even if the new regime doesn't want Julio Jones when he's a bit older, Arthur Blank does a great job with the business side of things. So just you want your owner to stay on the business side, and you want to leave the football stuff in the hands of the football experts whom you're going to hire this coming off season.
Yeah, that's the whole point of being an owner. Like, it's good if you do have football knowledge. Like, that's always helpful. But you're hiring people to make the decisions for you. Like, you shouldn't be in here making decisions day to day. Now, I think it's fair to weigh in on extremely major things, like should the team, hire X or Y head coach. Like, ultimately, it's up to the owner and his team president and his business people to make those decisions. So having strong football knowledge is helpful there, but you also have to know when to take a step back and let the people you trusted to hire and make it the leaders of your organization, let them make the decisions and don't, otherwise you got a Jerry Jones situation. So.
And I think that Arthur Blank did do a little bit of meddling. Remember the reports of the offensive linemen when we took them last year? It was, I think some were saying that it was Arthur Blank's call that we needed more offensive line help, which I mean it's fair, but you need to let the experts whom you hired, whom you're paying, do their job, build the team the way they envision it, and of course they need to have accountability reporting to you. In that you're the one who signs their paychecks. It's a results-oriented business. If they don't get the results, then they're liable to be replaced. But you still need to give them that chance. No head coach, no general manager wants to be micromanaged by the team owner. Especially when, let's be honest, these GMs, these head coaches, they've been around the game their entire lives. Arthur Blank doesn't come from a football background. He comes from a business background, and I'm not going to question his business acumen. I'm not going to question how good he is on that side of things, but he doesn't have the expertise that, let's say, an Eric Bieniemy has or a Louis Riddick has when it comes to purely the game of football. If those are the guys we hire, and no matter who we hire, they're going to be more of an expert at the game than Arthur Blank is. Yeah,
no, I agree, and that's key. And also, like, no, quality candidates want to come in and be micromanaged by an owner. That's why the Packers the Cowboys are stuck with Mike McCarthy as their head coach. You can't convince me that any quality coaching candidate would actually want to go be micromanaged by Jerry Jones.
But money only goes so long.
Yeah.
Like these great head coaching candidates, they're gonna get money from like anywhere.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, it's the NFL. Like other than maybe like the Raiders giving Gruden that ridiculous contract, like everyone's getting a lot of money. Like, it's not like you're getting lowballed by teams in the NFL, and the Falcons certainly won't be lowballing anyone. So, I'm interested to see what happens with the coaching search. Obviously, how Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich look, and if the next regime maybe. If Morris doesn't get a lot of offers, maybe if the defense does markedly improve over the course of the season, maybe they stick around. We'll see. But there's a lot of hope for this team, and this game shows a point that I think we were making a lot over the first 5 games of the season, which was this team is too damn talented to look like trash. Like, they're not trash. They're more talented than the Panthers. They're more talented than a lot of the teams they're playing, and they're losing. So what's the problem here? And it's not the talent. If it's not the talent, it's the coaching, and that's where we were. I don't know if Dan Quinn was like standing in the way of change, or if people just didn't want to change anything with him at the helm, or what. I mean, who knows what the exact reasons were, but I think the defense played more aggressive today, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, it was absolutely nice to see because like I said, I can't stand that passive defensive scheme of, all right, we're just going to keep everything in front of us. And, that works when you're winning. That works when you have a Kyle Shanahan dialing up these, exquisite play calls and having an all-time great offense, which is top 10 in history and in points per game. That doesn't work when you don't have that, and that doesn't work when you end up having to play from behind. That offense that kind of defense is also just the recipe for blown leads, which is what our reputation is, which is what we've seen the past few seasons. So it's if your defense is going to suck, you might as well suck by throwing the kitchen sink at them.
Right. Suck while you're trying to get turnovers. Suck while you're trying to blitz and do things to try to actually impact the game, and not just suck all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks when you suck all the time. Yeah, pretty much.
It does. Yeah.
Like they were out there, no blitzes. Nothing aggressive. It was just like a conservative play call. And let me tell you, giving up 80 yards on 10 plays and a touchdown is just as bad as giving up that 80-yard touchdown strike like right away. It could even be worse because your defense is on the field and it's going to get more and more fatigued. Which is what we saw in the Super Bowl. And it's what we saw in so many of these games where the defense is just on the field. You can't get off the field on third downs. But conversely, the difference between that is if you're out there blitzing, trying to force turnovers, sure, you take that risk of the big play happening, but at the same time, you have more of an opportunity to make a big play yourself, and this defense has made no big plays the first 5 weeks. Maybe against the Bears, they had those couple interceptions, but that doesn't even count because it was against
someone greasing up the football in week 2, right? With those 3 fumbles in the first quarter.
And in week 2 as well, you had all the turnovers, but you somehow blew that game too. So it's nice to see that the defense was forcing some turnovers in this game. They had those 3 interceptions. Like I said, A.J. Terrell looked good. Foye-Oluokun got his first interception. Foye-Oluokun has been responsible for 4 turnovers this season in 6 games, which is a ridiculous amount.
So good, yeah. The late round hit, man, a big, and that's the thing with Dimitrov. He would deliver these guys sometimes, particularly that combo of him and Quinn. They deliver these guys, but it was the failure to get the players where you needed to. They were unable to add impact pass rushers, on the edge. And that's a position that you just can't get by with mediocre at. And that's part of the problem we're seeing with this Falcons team. I mean, we'll give Fowler some credit today. He looked better today. He was instrumental in that goal line stand. Grady Jarrett obviously is amazing, but there was some big issues with that pairing. And it was time that the team moved on, and they're looking better. And maybe they'll look better over the rest of the season. Maybe they won't. But it's nice to be trending up for a change, because trending down, we were getting buried under the earth with how far this team was trending down. So it's also nice to have a big lead and not blow it for a change.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it was a nice change for this Falcons team to actually watch them play well and play to the talent level that we expected. Because I think we all kind of, thought the defense would probably be, not great at best. They'd probably be average. And that's kind of what they were today. They were good in the first half and bad in the second half. So that works out to be kind of average. And we thought the offense should be really good. And the offense looked really good today. So we'll see what Morris and Ulbrich and everybody else can squeeze out of this team over the remainder of the season. Before we get out of here, guys, do want to remind you, for the folks that are joining us for the first time, if you don't mind hitting that like button, that helps other folks on YouTube find the shows. And then if you're not already subscribed, if you hit that subscribe button, that'll give you notifications every time we go live. We have a show that we do on Wednesday nights as well. That'll be at 8:10 Eastern. That's a lot of fun. We got a lot of guests on here and co-hosts. Oh, no. I didn't say it at the top of the show, so I had to work it in somewhere. But yeah, guys, it's a lot of fun. So if you guys don't mind that, we appreciate it. But Adnan, anything else you wanna touch on here before we close it out?
Offensive line played very well, and just a shout out to them. The offensive line has been fantastic all season long in pass protection. That's a unit which was really under the microscope, and the fact that we haven't talked about it much this season, we haven't mentioned any of their names. That's a really good thing, because the O-line is something where they're very underappreciated. You only mention them when something terrible happens, when something goes wrong. I'm very much looking forward to Wednesday's show to get Keenan's insight on some of what the offensive line has been doing. For those that are new here, former Falcons guard Keenan Forney joins us on our Wednesday shows. Mm-hmm. He's also one of the co-hosts at this point.
Yes.
And he worked with Chris Lindstrom. He worked with Caleb McGarry over the offseason. So I'm really looking forward to getting his unique perspective as a former offensive lineman about some of what the offensive line has done differently, some of the good stuff that he's seen from this unit, and especially from Lindstrom and McGarry, if they're doing some of the stuff that he went over with them, and what specifically that was.
Yeah, I agree. And like we touched on it earlier, like, going into 2019, Arthur Blank's, meddling was to get the offensive line fixed. And like, honestly, it seems like maybe it was fixed, so that's good. We've got Chris Lindstrom, who's healthy and playing well. Caleb McGarry had a rough rookie season, but he has stabilized and looks good. The weak spot is definitely James Carpenter, who has been much better than 2019. I guess I'll just say that. But he's pretty average. And that's not the worst thing in the world for a team that last year was just really bad on the offensive line. But the run blocking has been better. Just top to bottom, the offensive line has been better, and some of that's health, but some of that is that these guys are just playing better. McGarry and James Carpenter in particular. So that is one consistently good thing that we've seen over the beginning of this season. Let's see. There's something else I wanted to touch on. I'm losing it. I lost it. But AJ Terrell, we talked about his interception, but I thought AJ Terrell looked really good today. Obviously got beat by Thielen on that one play, but I mean, that wasn't like he had his hands in there like trying to break it up, and Thielen came down with it. So I don't blame Terrell at all for that play. That was just a tremendous catch by Thielen. But obviously Terrell, as our first rounder, we need him to play up to that pick, and it looks like he's way better than Isaiah Oliver already. So
that's not saying much.
Not that that's saying much, but he's our best corner as a first rounder, and
he's looked good. He's looked good
yeah.
this season. He had like some struggles, which he's a rookie cornerback. I would expect that the first couple games, but AJ Terrell, he's played up to the pick definitely this year.
Yeah, so that's nice always to see, and we're going to get a good look at him over the rest of the season. I do wonder if this secondary gets a lot better once Darqueze Dennard comes back from IR, because he was looking tremendous against the Bears until he got hurt. I think he had, two picks in that game? I mean, it was really impressive. And he's that veteran that we kind of desperately needed to solidify the group, and then now he's been on IR for like 4 games. So we'll see if things kind of continue to trend up when he gets back. I guess he might be eligible to come off IR after this next game. So we will see what happens there. That could be another boost to the secondary. But Adnan is at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, anything else you want to plug or say before we close up tonight?
Just let's go Braves. Tonight is Game 7 of the NLCS. Just working it into the Falcons stuff. You saw Julio Jones make the catch, and he mixed it up a little bit in his celebration. Yeah. So the Braves have been doing all season. # mix it up. Let's not blow a 3-1 series lead.
Let's not blow it. Well, maybe we can get some good Atlanta sports vibes going today with the Falcons actually winning. So that's my hope. Yeah, good vibes.
I hope so, because you win this one and you're in the World Series, you lose it, and you're a laughing stock along with the Falcons. So hopefully.
Yeah. Well, the Falcons weren't on brand at all today, so maybe the Braves will also be off brand and actually close it out. So. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Yep, I'm very nervous. That's the one where I woke up thinking, all right, that's the one I was stressing about. Normally on Sundays I stress about the Falcons, but I was stressing about the Braves today.
It's hard to stress about the Falcons right now. There's just not a lot on the line.
It's like 0-5. I'm telling you, it was so nice the silver lining in the last couple of years is you do go into the second half in some of those games without any stress.
Yep.
And I was getting stressed toward the end when we were winning too much and when we were, blowing the draft pick.
Oh yeah. Yep. So we will see what happens over the rest of the season. But folks, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. Make sure you check out the site, thefalcoholic.com, to get all your written content needs. And there will also be a post-game podcast going up, I believe, shortly that is done by DW, who was on our emergency show on Monday of last week. And I believe Evan's on there as well. So that's a lot of fun if you're just craving even more post-game content. And then we will be obviously doing our show on Wednesday as well at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, guys, we appreciate all of you for tuning in, enjoying the first Falcons win of the season. If you guys don't mind, like I said, the likes, the subscribes, those are both things that help us out. So if you don't mind, hit that up. But until Wednesday, guys, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. Enjoy Monday. I actually enjoyed that Tuesday night football game last week as well, but I don't think we have one of those this week. So other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. We will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Until then, I'm Kevin. He's Adnan. And we will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.